Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Thames Centre. The date is October 21st, 2024. It's 5 p.m. and I call this meeting to order. There are no additions to the agenda, so therefore I wonder if I could have a mover and a seconder to approve. Councillor Lockie and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smyber. All in favor? Thank you. That carries. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Councillor Lockie.
Through your worship, I will be declaring a conflict of interest on item 10.4 regarding drain tile because I am a director for a business that manufactures drain tile.
Thank you. Okay. No one else with a disclosure of pecuniary interest then for tonight's meeting? Okay. Announcements. There are a couple. Actually, there are more than a couple. So to start with, this is October is Canadian Library Month. During this month, libraries and library partners across Canada raise awareness of the valuable role libraries play in the lives of people in Canada. In Ontario, the first week of October features First Nations Public Library Week, and the third week of October is Ontario Public Library Week, and that is falls right in with this October 20th to the 26th. And this year, the Ontario Libraries Association, I'm sorry, I missed the top part. Today, October 21st, we celebrate the important and critical role that school libraries play in the education and development of young people through recognizing Canadian School Library Day. This year's theme is a book for every student, which celebrates every student's right to read and to see themselves reflected in their reading choices. The second announcement is that October the 20th to the 26th is the 2024 Local Government Weekend in Ontario. This is an opportunity to promote the success and hard work that all local governments do to serve their communities. Local government is the level of government that is closest to the people. Its services and programs have a significant impact on individuals' day-to-day activities and quality of life. Every day, municipal professionals work hard to make life happen. Engaging in local government is vital for building strong, thriving communities. When residents take an active role in their local government, they not only influence important decisions, but also help to create an environment where everyone's voice matters. The third announcement is October the 24th, this coming Thursday, is Child Care Worker and Early Childhood Educator Appreciation Day, in recognition of the education, dedication, and commitment of child care workers and early childhood educators. We are so thankful for all they do for our children and the impact that they have on our families and the quality of life for our communities. And the next one is the Thames Centre Environmental Advisory Committee is hosting 2 upcoming Green Town Hall meetings to obtain public feedback on environmental initiatives in our municipality. The first Green Town Hall meeting will be held tomorrow night, that's Tuesday, from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. in the Lions Community Hall of the newly renovated Flight Exec Center. The second Green Town Hall will be held in Thorndale on Monday, October the 28th, also between 7 and 8:30 at the Thorndale Lions Community Center in meetings room 1 and 2. And I would encourage anybody who would like to give input to this committee to mark it in your calendars and come out. There, I think we're about done with announcements. So we'll move into item number 6 on your agenda, the public meeting planning. So a mover and a seconder that council adjourn its regular meeting at 5:05 PM and move into public meetings pursuant to the Planning Act to consider applications listed on the October 21st, 2024 council agenda. First item is 6.1, consent application B9-24 and zoning bylaw amendment application Z10-24, John and Teresa Goris as the applicant, and the property address is 17210 Plover Mills Road. So we'll ask the planner, Alana Cortez, to go when she's ready. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot the,
That's okay. I will
okay,
move that we go
move
into
the meeting into, my apologies. A seconder, Councillor Lockie, all in favor? Motion carries. Okay. Sorry, Alana, you can go for it when you're ready.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. So the purpose of the consent application is to sever a parcel of land to facilitate the disposal of a dwelling surplus to a farming operation as a result of a pending farm consolidation. And the purpose of the rezoning application is to rezone the balance of the farm to prohibit any new residential use. The subject property is a 49-acre farm located on the east side of Plover Mills Road and on the north side of Plover Mills Road and east side of Fairview Road. And the lands are designated agricultural within the Thames Center official plan, and they're zoned agricultural within the bylaw. The property is used primarily for the cultivation of field crops and contains a single detached dwelling and a garden shed. The agents have entered into an agreement of purchase and sale with the owners to purchase the lands to be severed, being the farmland, whereas the applicants would retain ownership of the land to be retained containing the residential use. Staff would like to point out the background of the planning report incorrectly indicates the lands to be severed would contain the dwelling and a garden shed. With this, the lands to be retained would contain the single detached dwelling and the garden shed and would have a frontage of approximately 58 meters along Plover Mills Road and an area of approximately 1.6 acres. The lands to be severed would have a frontage of approximately 621 meters along Plover Mills Road and an area of approximately 19.10 hectares. So the applicant is also proposing to rezone the lands to be retained from the agricultural A zone to the site-specific A-45 zone to prohibit any new residential use. The provincial planning statement and the County of Middlesex and Thames Center official plans generally permit lot creation in agricultural areas for a dwelling surplus to a farming operation as a result of farm consolidation, provided that criteria has been satisfied. And staff are satisfied that the criteria has generally been met. Planning staff are satisfied that the subject applications are consistent with the PPS and in conformity with both the county and Thames Center official plans. In regards to agency comments received during the circulation of the subject applications, comments were received from the county engineer, director of public works, drainage superintendent, chief building official, the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, as well as Hydro One, and these comments are included within the report. No public comments have been received to date. Planning staff recommend that the consent application be approved, subject to the 11 conditions noted in the report for the reasons outlined in the report, and also that the zoning bylaw amendment application be approved and that the implementing bylaw be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Alana. Is there any additional information? Is the applicant in the room or the agent? Would you like to speak to this? Okay.
Oh, there you go. This is high tech. I'm Chris Goris. I'm here representing my parents. My father John's with me here today. It's their property that they're severing the house off of. I'm the one that's going to be buying the excess farmland around the dwelling, and just wondering if there's any questions, if anybody had any questions about it or not. Otherwise,
Yeah.
thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Okay. And I'm taking it that there's nobody else who is online with
There's no one
questions.
online, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. So any questions on this particular application from the members of council? None? Okay. Councillor Heeman, you have your hand up?
Just congratulations.
Oh. Okay, so if there are no other questions from the members of council, then we will close the public meeting on this one. We have two decisions on this one. One is for consent and the other is for zoning. So in the first instance, do I have a mover on the recommended motion to approve consent application B9-24, subject to the 11 conditions as appended on the agenda? Councillor Heeman and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smybert. All in favor? That motion carries. Thank you. Great. The next part is to council. Do I have a mover on the recommended motion as appended to the agenda to approve zoning bylaw amendment Z10-24 and to approve the implementing bylaw as included in the bylaw portion of the agenda? A mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Lockie and seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, we will move on then to, thanks for your attendance here tonight. Yeah, take care. The next item is 6.2, consent application B12-24, Sherry Lynn Pye and Lawrence Pye applicant, Michael Pye agent. Property address is 2770 Rath Street, and we'll ask Ms. Cortez for an overview.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. So the purpose and effect of consent application B12-24 is to establish an access easement in favor of 2757 Rath Street over a portion of the retained lands from consent applications B2-24 to B5-24 to recognize the existing use of a shared driveway. So the subject property is a 9.5 acre parcel situated on the south side of Hamilton Road, on the west side of Putnam Road, and on the south end of Rath Street in the hamlet of Putnam. And as mentioned, and as council may recall, the lands are subject to consent applications B2-24 to B5-24, and that was conditionally approved by council on May 27th, 2024. And the application sought to create 4 lots for residential purposes. As a condition of consent for these applications, the applicant was required to establish a right-of-way easement in favor of the owner at 2757 Rath Street through a consent for easement purposes to ensure that 2757 has legal access to and from Rath Street. So currently the owner at 275 Rath Street utilizes the driveway at 277 Rath Street to access their property. So the provincial policy statement, the County of Middlesex official plan generally permit consents for legal or technical reasons, including easements, and the Thames Center official plan also generally permits the establishment of easements to facilitate legal access, provided that the consent will not result in the creation of a new building lot. The foregoing would not be compromised, given that the proposed easement is being sought to ensure legal access to and from Rath Street for the neighboring property. So based on this, the subject application is consistent with the provincial planning statement and in conformity with both the County of Middlesex and Thames Center official plans. In the circulation of the notice, agency comments were received from the county engineer, director of public works, drainage superintendent, the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, and the chief building official, and these comments are included within the report, and no responses from the public have been received to date. So it is staff's recommendation that application for consent B12-24 conditions outlined in the report for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anyone in the applicant or the agent? Do you have anything you'd like to add? Okay, all right then, thanks. And no one online?
There's no one online, Your Worship.
Ready? So, any questions from members of council? No, pretty straightforward one. Okay, all right then. So we will move to close the public meeting. And a decision, do I have a mover and a seconder on the recommended motion to approve consent application B12-24, subject to the 5 conditions as appended on the agenda? Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? Thank you. All right, motion carries. At this point, now we will close the public meeting. That the planning, public meeting adjourn at 5:15 PM in order to sit as a committee of adjustment under the Planning Act to consider an application listed on the October 7th, 2024 council agenda. 27? Says, yes, should say 21st, right? Yeah. Okay. All righty. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Crockett and Councillor Lockett. All in favor? Thank you. That motion carries. All right. So item number 7 under the Committee of Adjustment, a minor variance application A10-24, Sheridan Pye and Lawrence Pye applicant, Michael Pye as the agent, 42770 Roth Street. And this relates to the previous application just heard. A review of it then, Alana?
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. So the purpose and effect of the minor variance application is to seek relief from the zoning bylaw as it relates to minimum frontage requirements for the Hamlet residential zone. And as mentioned, it is for the same property that we just had for the consent application for an easement. As a condition of consent for B2-24 to B5-24, the applicants were required to obtain a minor variance to address the deficiency of frontage for the retained lands, considering the existing frontage is approximately 20.1 meters, whereas the Hamlet residential zone requires a minimum frontage of 30 meters. Staff evaluated the minor variance against the 4 tests of a minor variance and is of the opinion that all 4 tests have been met. Unacceptable adverse impacts on neighboring lands are not anticipated, given that the requested minimum lot frontage would remain sufficient for access and sufficient for the use of the lands. And it's important to note that there would be no change to the existing frontage. So based on the foregoing, the subject application is considered consistent with the provincial planning statement and in conformity with both the County of Middlesex and Thames Center official plans. In the circulation of the public notice, agency comments received included comments from the county engineer, the director of public works, the drainage superintendent, the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, and the chief building official. And these are included within the report, and staff recommend that application for minor variance A10-24 be approved for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Alana. All right. So, Mr. Pye, anything else you want to add? No, you're good. All right, good, thanks. And I'm assuming again, there's no one.
There's no one online, Your
Oh,
Worship.
okay. All right. Any questions from council? No questions from council? Okay. At this point, if there's no further discussion, the public hearing is now closed. And do I have a mover on the recommended motion to approve the minor variance A10-24 as appended to the agenda? Councillor Crockett and seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? Good. That motion carries. Thanks so much for your attendance here tonight. Uh, 7.2. All right, the 7.2 on your agenda to adjourn the Committee of Adjustment at 5:18 PM. Moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. All right. We'll move on to number 8 on the agenda, concerning the provincial planning statement update. And Abby Heddle Jacobs from the County of Middlesex as planner to present the report. Thank you. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Worship. All right, next slide, please. So as council may recall, the provincial government announced a draft provincial policy statement along with Bill 185, the Cutting Red Tape to Build More Homes Act, back in April of this year. So this new document that we have before us today was built upon the April 2024 draft document. It represents a more permissive planning framework The effective date was yesterday, so October 20th, 2024. And there are some transition regulations that are to be determined. So the province briefly consulted on the transition regulations through the Environmental Registry of Ontario. And the county submitted comments given the ongoing OLT matters relating to a number of the local OPs, including Thames centers. No decision has been made at this time, so we're kind of just sitting on our hands here, waiting for that and any news in that regard. So moving along. So under the growth management theme, the planning horizon has been updated to 20 to 30 years. So it actually provides for a range, which provides municipalities with a bit more flexibility in that regard, especially compared to the previous requirement, which was a hard-lined 25-year planning horizon. Municipalities are now required to base growth projections on Ministry of Finance population projections. Municipal comprehensive reviews have been eliminated from the provincial planning statement. Instead, the criteria include consideration of need, supply, infrastructure, alternative locations, agricultural impact, and the phased progression of urban development. Moving forward, so under the theme of agriculture, the new document requires that planning authorities implement an agricultural systems approach. And essentially what this means is they want, the province is intending like a contiguous approach to the protection of agricultural land, including the agri-food network. So it would appear that there is a bit of an economic development component to the agricultural systems approach. But I would just note to council, we are waiting on some guidelines from the province on implementation. So there'll be more coming likely midway through the year next year on that. So additional residential units. The new document does provide policy directions relating to ARUs in the agricultural area and also provides some criteria, including that the ARU be clustered with existing buildings on the property, MDS compliance, limited scale, and that there will be no impacts to public health and safety. The lot creation policies were not changed, except in regards to severance of a residence surplus to a farming operation, which was adjusted to provide for one new residential lot per farm consolidation, which is new language. And essentially, this just means that if a farmer had a lot that contained two dwellings, they would no longer be able to sever off both dwellings. So that's a bit of a change from how we do things now. So moving forward to the employment areas theme, the new policies do allow for the conversion of employment lands to other uses. This is subject to tests. A new policy was added that requires all development within 300 meters of employment areas avoid or mitigate the impact to the employment area. And so essentially this just promotes more land use compatibility between our heavier industrial type uses, manufacturing and warehousing from encroachment of sensitive land uses like residential development. In addition to that, there was a new definition added to the Planning Act, as well as this document for employment areas. And again, this focuses on heavy industry and appears to be intended to protect heavy industrial type uses, such as manufacturing and warehousing. Moving forward to housing. So this document, again, similar to the previous iteration, focuses a lot on housing development and also the construction of new types of dwellings. So just providing for a greater range of housing options. It also includes a new definition of affordable that aligns with the definition that the province recently included in the Development Charges Act. So consistency is good in that regard. From a servicing perspective, they now refer to the servicing hierarchy as servicing options. However, they are still prioritizing full municipal services. By they, I mean the province. And then I just wanted to touch on the use it or lose it authority. And so essentially, amendments to the Municipal Act through Bill 185 created the legislative framework for municipalities to allocate and reallocate servicing capacity to developers at the draft plan approval stage. And the new PPS just contains some language to kind of back that up and encourage municipalities to use that authority where it's warranted, which is a wholly welcome change. So looking forward, similar to the previous document, all decisions must be consistent with the PPS as of yesterday. And they chose a Sunday so that there would be no council meetings on that day. So we can all be grateful for that. Again, the province is consulting on transition provisions, and hopefully we will have an update on that shortly. Best case scenario. Updates to all official plans and zoning bylaws are warranted as a result of these changes. So that would start with the county official plan, and then the local official plans will likely require some housekeeping amendments to remain consistent with this document. And then applications for settlement area boundary expansions are something that are now provided for as a result of these changes. So municipalities will have to work diligently in order to accept and process these new types of applications, because previously we weren't getting them. And I would just note to council that changes to the Planning Act through Bill 185 do provide for appeal rights on the developer side of things. So prior to Bill 185, developers or landowners were not able to appeal OPAs in which they were proposing to expand a settlement area boundary. That has been rescinded and they are now appealable. So implications for the municipality. The new PPS is a significant change in land use planning policy for Ontario. And as I previously mentioned, it does necessitate updates to all official plans and zoning bylaws. It does represent a major overhaul to how municipalities plan for growth, given that we are now moving away from the municipal comprehensive reviews to evaluate how we expand our settlement area boundaries, and we are now entertaining privately initiated applications to do so. And then again, the transition provisions may impact the ongoing OLT matters with the municipality's official plan as it is currently with the Ontario Land Tribunal today. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Abby. So council, any questions? Let's start with Councillor Human.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just wondering about the use it or lose it provisions, and I was wondering if you could explain some of the mechanics of that. And I know you referenced servicing capacity in some cases where levies have been drawn to build servicing capacity based on previous residential zoning. Is that kind of what you're referring to as the allotted capacity? And would we have to, in effect, refund if we were to revoke, or like what's the lose it part of it? I get the use it part, but what are they losing?
Thank you for sorry. Thank you for your question through the mayor. So essentially, the use it or lose it authority is new under the Municipal Act, and what it involves is the municipality working with likely your engineering consultant to come up with a servicing allocation strategy that council would then adopt by bylaw. And so essentially what it allows you to do is if a developer is coming forward with a draft plan approval application, or this could even realistically apply to a residential site plan as well, the municipality would have a policy whereby they're allocating capacity in water, wastewater to that developer. And generally there's like a timeline associated with that servicing allocation. So if you're in a situation, you find yourself in a situation whereby a developer hasn't acted on or started building, you can then take away that servicing allocation and reallocate it to a developer elsewhere in the municipality.
Through Your Worship. So is that like, for example, the prepayment of development charges or like a capacity charge, or D, all of the above? Or I guess C, all of the above.
Thank you for your question. I don't necessarily know maybe what you're asking me. I don't know that there would be any money involved so much as the municipality is allocating them the guaranteed capacity in the wastewater treatment plant, for example. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks.
Any other questions from council? May I ask one, though, just before on the use it or lose it? So the one thing that I have sticking around in my head, and you can tell me whether, is it only to do with water and wastewater? Or let's say, for example, somebody got a draft plan approval 3 or 4 years ago, and they have not started any building or any infrastructure work on the property. Does that have any impact on council saying use it or lose it? Or is it simply for water, wastewater?
Thank you for your question. I would think that the two would inherently be related, I guess, like on the surface. Like, and obviously as a land use planner, this isn't necessarily my area of expertise. Um, but I would just note that I don't know how this would work if like there's a specific situation in the past in the absence of the municipality having that allocation policy passed by bylaw and in place. So I think if the municipality were interested in doing this, you would be wanting to engage with your engineering consultant to kind of chart that path forward in regards to how the municipality would like to implement an allocation policy, if that's where you wish to go.
Okay, all right. That's good then. Thanks, Abby. So I'll turn back to the deputy mayor. I think she has a question.
Probably more comments than they are questions, actually. So the elimination of the municipal comprehensive review in a way makes me a little bit anxious. But I just want to let council know that during our delegations with the province, we've been assured that the agricultural will still be a priority over development. So I was somewhat relieved to hear about that. So, but I guess we'll have to see what happens if we receive applications on that. And I guess my other question on that would be, would we need then official plan policies that would help council and also staff determine whether or not or what conditions we would take a look at approving that?
Thank you for your question through the mayor. So absolutely, your official plan is kind of exactly where you'd like to chart that path out. So moving forward, once the OP, I guess, is situated with the OLT, that is something certainly that the municipality should be looking to implement in the near future. And again, I would just echo kind of what you said in your first comment. I understand that these changes can certainly be daunting, but all of the other sections of the PPS still apply. All of those provincial priorities, so the protection of agricultural land, the protection of natural heritage, the natural environment, those all still apply. So, and I would just note that the planning horizon does have a maximum as well. Like that 30 years, you can't be entertaining applications to just expand the settlement area boundaries in an unruly manner because that is still a maximum. And at the end of the day, it is with members of council how far you wish to plan out. So I do understand that the changes are they are a lot, but if that makes you feel any better, yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Michelle, are you finished? No.
I just
Go ahead.
had one other question, but you probably can't answer it. It's more like maybe, again, a concern is, I understand that we've got some changes now to the policy framework. We probably can't make any changes to our official plan because our official plan is still under appeal. And my understanding is still months out before if that's going to be looked at or even approved. So do we, what can we do? Do we have to absolutely wait until that official plan has been approved? Can we do some work in the meantime so that when the official plan has been approved, then we can follow that with an amendment?
Thank you for your question through the mayor. So you could absolutely start doing like laying the groundwork for that now. You can pass official plan amendments when your OP is appealed. It's just a matter of ensuring that the amendment that was passed in that kind of between period is implemented correctly once the document is being consolidated. I would also note that the county OP does have some more specific requirements as it relates to settlement area boundary expansions, and kind of lays out more detailed criteria that the local municipalities can rely on in the interim. And I would just note that the new policies in the provincial planning statement, um, they're a little bit more stringent than the MCR, in regards to what municipalities have to evaluate when these applications are coming across the table, so to speak. So
Councillor Crockett, a question?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I think further to Michelle's comments there, I think it's still uneasy seeing that settlement expansion, settlement boundary expansion is possible. I feel a little bit more comfort knowing that we do have that layer of county restrictions in place as well. But there is just such a juxtaposition between expanding outside of settlement boundaries and protecting agriculture land, because frankly, that's all that there is available. One thing that wasn't touched on that I was curious, and perhaps you might have to get back to us afterwards, was whether or not there's reference to the priority of infilling existing settlement boundaries before going outside of them. Because I think especially not so much in Dorchester, but there's areas like even larger cities where there's a lot of wasted land or undeveloped land that's just sitting, holding, whether it's for sale, whether it's just zoned improperly for its surrounding areas. But to kind of see on, a ranked priority list of how we can move forward on infrastructure development or residential development in those areas before going outside, just because XYZ owns that land and is ready to go versus someone who's just not done the back work before that. So that'd be interesting to know. And then just my last comment here is I am excited to see a bit more language around the ARUs. It is something that's certainly percolating in Thames Center, and is of interest, I think, kind of across the municipality. So thanks for touching on that.
thank you for
Any-
that. Oh, sorry. Did you want me to touch on your first question that you had? I'm happy to do that. So, in regards to infilling, I would just note that the language in the new document has been a little bit relaxed in that regard. However, like it's still there. The background behind it, it's still there. So there is still policy support for infill development and kind of going in, yeah, a little bit as opposed to just completely. But within reason, of course. So I think that's promising that they didn't take it out entirely. I'm happy to expand on that through an email and kind of direct you to the sections of the new document which speak to that if you'd like. I could do that.
Yeah, thank you. I'd appreciate that.
Thanks, Abby. And just on that point, so if I take your explanation correctly, we can lean a little on the county for a little bit more language as about how we expand. My fear is that in some cases, if a council, for whatever reason, decides that an expansion of the boundary is inappropriate for the municipality, does that automatically give the developer the right to go to the OLT for a decision?
Thank you for your question. Can I just clarify something? So are you talking about if the municipality has received a formal application for the official plan amendment to expand?
Yes.
So yeah, that's correct. That means that if council were to like no decision or a rejection, that developer, that landowner does have appeal rights to appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal, yes.
Well, I'll look to see then what the county has to say, because in some respects, it could be a little bit of a Pandora's box in certain areas. So, okay, thanks. Tom, did you have a question?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, just wondering, there was the 25 to 30 for residential, but is commercial still 25 plus, or were there any provisions put around commercial and industrial?
Thank you for your question through the mayor. So the planning horizon is 20 to 30 years. It was 25. And that is like all encompassing. So that's for your residential and your employment lands. And as well as you would plan your commercial lands that same timeline.
Thank you. That's great, because that's one of the things we've been discussing at the Economic Development Committee, is the need for more employment lands. So this is actually a welcome piece of information.
Any other questions from council on this matter? Deputy Mayor Smybury?
Just one. The Ministry of Finance projections, is that something that's available that the ministry produces each year or will be producing on an ongoing basis? I'm not sure I've seen those figures.
Yeah, thank you for your question through the mayor. So they do make them available every year. They actually just released them. I believe it was the 1st of October or the 4th of October. And they are accessible through the Ministry of Finance's website. If you just, put them into Google. I would just note that they do include the City of London. Because it's for the census division. Yes. Yes. So it involves a little bit of work with our consultants on kind of getting those numbers down to what they need to be for Middlesex, but yes, they are available.
Any other questions? It's just one final question, because this has come to us not formally, but is there any regulation in terms of the ARUs, whether say you have an existing square footage of, let's say 1,000 square feet, and somebody else wants an ARU in that clustered zone that's 1,500. Does the policy speak to that at all? Or does it have to be smaller than the original?
Thank you for your question. So it varies. The province is consulting on regulations right now that apply to our fully serviced settlement areas. So those are the ARUs that are permitted as of right. And that was through Bill 23 2 years ago, I think. In regards to ARUs in the agricultural area, the policy in the new document does require that the ARU be subordinate. So
that answers the question. Thank you. Anything else from council before we move on? Nothing? Okay. All right, then. In that particular case, a mover and a seconder to accept the presentation on provincial planning statement updates as provided by Abby Heddle Jacobs, County of Middlesex planter, received for information. Deputy Mayor Smybury and seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? That motion carries. Thank you. Okay, are we ready for the KPI presentation online? Okay. So this is Mr. Lucas from 308 Consulting. Can you hear us?
I can, Mayor McMillan, I'm all set when, if you're ready for the
Okay.
presentation.
Certainly, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
All right, I'm just going to start with, I'll share my screen here. Okay. All righty, is that showing up on the screen, Sarah?
Yes, it is showing.
All righty. Well, thank you so much for inviting me to present this evening. I wanted to thank you, Mayor McMillan, and members of council and CEO Barrick for the opportunity to work on this project. I do apologize. My plan was to be at council in person, but I had a last minute family obligation I had to contend to. But I was really looking forward to meeting with the department directors because we have spent quite a bit of time over the last little while. And I wanted to thank them in person for their work on this project. So I'll start right into it. My name is Blaine Lucas. I'm the president of 308 Consulting and Strategy Group. And we were retained by the municipality to develop key performance indicators for all municipal departments. So I just wanted to start my presentation with a quick definition of what is a key performance indicator as I move the slide ahead here. So basically what a key performance indicator does is it measures or adds value to a specific municipal function and then provides a way for you to track your success or where you're at in comparison to that particular objective. So it's basically what sometimes you take a particular issue, you add a numerical measure to it, you create a benchmark of how you would like to track it, and then the organization moves forward to try to meet those objectives. So, so basically what the whole purpose is to find out currently where you're at and where you'd like to be, and if there's any opportunities for improvement. So as part of the municipality's 2024 to 2027 strategic plan, there was a clear mandate from council to enhance transparency, accountability, and efficiency across all departments through consistent performance measurements. So that was the focus of our project. And I worked closely with CEO Barrick and the department directors to learn the business across the entire corporation and also to determine what information was available and how we could utilize that information to achieve the objectives set forth by council. So today I aim to explain how these KPIs, key performance indicators, will help the municipality achieve these objectives and optimize your performance, your transparency to the taxpayers, and also to make sure that you meet things like regulatory compliance and streamlining operations. So the whole goal of a key performance indicator is to give you a snapshot at a particular time of where you're at based on a deliverable or an action item that you want to track. And then from there, determine at a particular time if there's any operational adjustments that you need to make in order to make sure the municipality stays on track. So I'm just going to get ahead of myself here and run the slides. Alrighty. So our project started with a comprehensive review of municipal service inventory, where we identified 101 services provided by the municipality. Of these, 78 are directly managed by the municipality and 23 are contracted services. So we categorize these into internal support services and external forward-facing services of how you would impact or services that would impact the municipal taxpayers. So the inventory was the foundation for developing our key performance indicators and helped us determine, based on each department, what were the primary objectives that we were looking to achieve. So the process for our project, I'm sorry, Sarah, I am terrible at slides. Slides forward. So anyways, so our oh my goodness. So what did we do to get where we're at tonight? We researched key performance indicators from other municipalities in Ontario, Nova Scotia, and Alberta. We conducted one-on-one interviews with CAO Barrick and the department heads to currently understand the metrics that they track, their access to information, and any areas that they thought that improvement was required. We drafted a set of key performance indicators. We broke down how you would, the information that would be required for those indicators. We discussed how to calculate it, how to secure the information. And then we sent it back to the municipality for feedback. And one of the things that when I met with the directors, we talked about is we wanted to start the KPI journey for the municipality with without creating any additional workload for as best we could, without creating any additional need for any infrastructure. And a lot of times what I found over the course of my consulting career is a lot of times the information is available. It's just learning how do we pull it together in order to track the KPIs. And one of the things I wanted to impress upon the municipality is these indicators are just a benchmark for to start with. They will change as operational issues change within the municipality. And as you move forward, there might be opportunities for either adjusting the current KPIs or creating additional ones. So after we did the draft report and got feedback from the departments, I put together the project plan that hopefully was that you have received as a kind of a guideline or an implementation plan for the municipality to move forward. And what our goal was I wanted to make sure that the KPIs were tailored for the municipality of Thames Centre. They were operationally feasible, like you could actually secure the information, produce the information, and implement it over a reasonable period of time. I'm going to move forward here. So we looked at a number of different data sources when we did our analysis. We looked at financial reporting, operational and capital budgets. We took a look at the impact assessments. We took a look at your asset management plan, your strategic plan. We took a look at the fire department data. We also took a look at information associated with, the volume of members of the community that would attend particular facilities and particular recreational functions. And then we move forward with that information, did a data analysis, and created the key performance indicators for feedback. Let me just move here. All right, then. So what I wanted to achieve on was to develop a standardized process for defining the key performance indicator, providing you with the information on how to calculate that key performance indicator, and then so that regardless of the department, the process was the same. So if you had an employee that moves from one business unit to another, the process for the key performance indicator is the same. The indicator may be different, but the idea was to develop a standardized approach that regardless of what the department was, the same and similar process was followed. So, and what that involved was consistent data collection, the definition, the source of the data, how we calculate it with what the parameters were, be it whether it was an operational issue or a finance issue, and how we calculate the numeric deliverable, and then giving recommendations on a particular visual dashboard, right? People love to be able to take a look at, easily take a look at where you're at today, what you project for the future, and comparing your performance to the past, and doing so in one quick look at a dashboard. I just wanted to I'll give you a quick example here, but there's a number of them. I just use an example of how to calculate staff turnover rates, right? So if you wanted to see if there was any issues around attention and attraction, primarily this could also be based on market trends, right? I know there's particular positions out there that are very sought after and very hard to attract and recruit. So this is just kind of how we went through and to demonstrate exactly how we would determine staff turnover rates. And then from there, we would determine what position the municipality is in. Are you in a good position? Are you in a rare position, a fair position, or is there focus administrative work on that particular administrative function? Just going to go forward. Alrighty, and then the next piece we wanted to make sure that we put forward was some sample dashboards. And we wanted to make it clear, user-friendly, and we wanted to create the dashboards that you could use them either internally, if it was performance around administrative, performance of your staff, and also externally. So if members of the community wanted to see how the municipality was doing on a particular department or a particular function. One of the pieces that the dashboards would do when these when you would provide this information in a public format, it also leads to, you know, our foundational philosophy in the municipal sector of being open and transparent and making sure that the taxpayers are well aware of the status and how the municipality is being run. The just going to move forward here. So I just want to quickly chat about the benefits, right? So it leads to your ability to determine where you're at right now. You can also make immediate operational adjustments if there's changes that are seen from one week to the next. I have seen other municipal jurisdictions where the senior leadership team will have a meeting once a week or once every 2 weeks, and what they go over is compliance with their key performance indicators, and then gives them the ability to make operational adjustments or collaborate across departments to see if they can help find solutions. It also helps enhance your budget planning through results-based management, right? Allows you to make determinations on both operational and capital adjustments. And once again, it makes the data accessible to the community so people can determine the overall performance of the municipality. So the next steps, right? And so what we developed in a collaborative project was some foundational KPIs that could be implemented within the municipality. And from there, you start with implementation, start with internal tracking, and then from there move to using those KPIs to assist you with the budget process, shifting to results-based resource allocation, develop a standardized data collection framework across all departments, and also regular performance monitoring and track your progress and identify opportunities for improvement. Ongoing evaluation and refinement of what you do in order to make sure that you're operating at peak efficiency. So as you move down through the KPI journey, you can get to the part where you can create a public reporting forum. So members of the public could go to your website. They could see how you're rating based on certain deliverables or key performance indicators that you've selected. And the other piece too that would be ideal eventually, if your neighboring municipalities would adopt the same key performance indicators, then you could also compare internally. It allows your constituents to compare your performance, and then also to generate comparison with similar sized municipalities within your local jurisdiction. So yeah, so that's the last piece I just wanted to mention. Is I really wanted to thank the department directors for all the phone calls, all the meetings, all the information that we exchanged. I learned a lot from the senior leadership team. They were a really good group of people, and I really appreciated the opportunity to work with CAO Barrick and the department heads. If there's any questions at all from members of council, I'm happy to answer them now.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas. I'll turn to council now to find out if there are any questions. Councillor Lockie.
Through your worship, with respect to the tracking of KPIs, is there like a system that you use, or do you use like Excel? Like how is it all tracked and stored?
No, that's an excellent question. So through the mayor to the councillor, it all depends on the municipal jurisdiction. I've seen things like mostly locations will start with Excel spreadsheets, right? And then from there creates dashboards. I've also seen software ClickView, Tableau is another dashboard creation tool. So what I've seen with a lot of municipalities as they start the KPI journey, they'll start with what they have at their disposal. Primarily, it would be Microsoft Office, Excel, and a lot of times working with their IT, if there's databases within the municipality that information can be exchanged or exported, and then creating and then working from there, right? There is a lot of dashboard tools out there that at any particular time, CEO Barrett could log into his computer and see, the number of municipal licenses that have been purchased on that day, that particular day, that week, see overall trends over a period of time. And each one of the department heads could also take a look and see how their team is performing based on the deliverables that have been agreed to by the municipality. So there's a number of software tools, but primarily, even if you start with a pad of paper and agreement for the KPIs, the whole goal with this is to understand that measuring things is it's not a bad, it's not negative, nobody's evaluating individual performance. The goal is to see where are we at, what changes do we need to make, and to allow the organization to be flexible enough to make adjustments to your operations on the fly, not because you're getting the information after the event has occurred, because you have real hand information at the time to avoid any either service disruptions or any reputational harm to the organization. You know exactly where you're at. And if you're seeing that there's a negative variance financially in one particular location, you can make operational decisions to make up that shortfall. So instead of coming to council to explain a budgetary negative variance, you come to council and explain that you've balanced the books based on the fact that you've had a real line of sight on every transaction within the municipality at a given point in time. And from the conversations I've had with the department heads, they do have their handle on everything that they're doing. It's an incredibly well managed and well functioning municipality. The key is sharing that information across departments so everyone knows the deliverables of their peers and their colleagues, and that information is readily available for CIO Barrick and members of council at their request.
Thanks very much. Question from Councillor Crockett.
Thank you, Worship. I have a comment and two questions, actually, if that's all right.
Okay, of course.
The first being the comment, I just want to say thank you to yourself, but more so thank you to the Thames Center team. I'm sure this took a lot of time, and I know that it was something that we had discussed in the strategic planning process as a high priority, not just for visibility to the community, but also just internally. I think it was always known that there was really good things happening, but how can we show that and how can we amplify that? Which kind of goes into my two questions. The first would be, what would be the rollout or the timeline for this? Are we hoping to implement this in 2025? Are we starting small, growing larger?
Let Mr. Barrett take that one.
Well, that's great through the mayor, and thank you for the question, Councillor Crockett. So the intention with I know the presentation is here, but the report is also on the docket this evening. Should council approve that, our intention is to proceed to have the public-facing dashboard go live with the new website, which is also coming up in the next, we'll say, couple of months, ideally before the end of the year. And we would focus originally on the public-facing, forward-facing services first, so parks and rec and permits coming in and roads, etc. First, and then work on the more internal-facing KPIs thereafter. So it'll be a rollout as you suggest, with the public-facing measures being distributed first.
Thank you for that. And then just good segue into my second question here would be, with the focus on continuous improvement, is there going to be some consideration to continued professional development for employees here at Thames Center?
Again, Mr. Barrett, go ahead.
Thank you through the mayor. Absolutely love the question, Councillor. And yes, I know personally myself and the senior management team are big fans of ongoing continuous improvement and professional development. There is a budget in the 2024 line that's approved that happy to say staff have taken advantage of and used. And so we'll certainly be putting a professional development, continuous improvement piece back in the budget for 2025, subject to council approval to continue the ongoing training and education and professionalization of our local public service.
Thank you for that. I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Crockett. Any other questions? Deputy Mayor Smyver.
Just to build on what Councillor Crockett was asking, so my understanding is, so we'll start this in 2025, but that's just going to create kind of the baseline, right? And then we'll be able to kind of really do that measurement probably in the year 2026. Am I correct?
Yes, to the mayor, that is correct. To the deputy mayor, we do have, as I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, in the body of the report, there is some information that we've been able to collectively pull together to kind of show council and public what this could all look like. So we do have existing data that's presented, but to your point, we may just align it differently that's more available for like Ontario municipal benchmarking initiatives and others where we can actually have comparators and we're not looking only at ourselves but outwardly. And so for 2025, ideally, to your point, yes, would be a baseline for the municipality, although it could be a subject to change as we move forward as well. But that's the intent, is kind of today moving forward.
Councillor Heyman, question?
Through your worship, not so much a question, just more of a comment that, like, again, as has been stated previously, I appreciate the work that staff has put into this, and I also want to acknowledge that this is something that we have been doing in different forms, and I know like a lot of that data has been reported to us at different times, and I know staff has a excellent handle on their respective departments. So I think this is a great step for us to put that data in context for the broader public, and as part of pushing for the financial health indicators in last term of council, and those are an excellent tool that we use in conjunction with our budgeting exercise that help us determine, you know, what levels of investment are prudent at that period of time. So I think it'll be excellent to have these additional tools. And on a personal note, I'm a big fan of when I go to Tim Hortons and I see that little clock running, and and I think that this is, you know, kind of like a little bit of a more complicated version of that. But again, it speaks to customer service being at the forefront of everything that we're trying to do here at Thames Center. So again, thank you to staff.
Good, thanks for your thanks for your comments then. Yeah, I'm sorry, but I almost mentioned it. Councillor Lucky.
Sorry, I have one more question through your worship. So just out of curiosity, how many KPIs have you come up with for each department?
Oh my goodness. What we tried to do was tried to create it so it was reasonable and manageable to begin with. And one thing that I've learned over the years is that if I came forward and gave you a dozen KPIs for each department, it would be too cumbersome to actually implement. So we tried to keep it reasonable, a reasonable number based on the data that was readily accessible and what you could easily implement coming in 2025, and quickly from a municipal perspective, getting information out to the taxpayers. So we kept it within, some of the larger departments have a little bit more, and but we kept it probably within, at the very most, within a half a dozen per at the higher end per department. So the goal is to give you the foundation so that if you come up with a new KPI that you'd like to track, you just follow the same standardized process and implement that. So once you're done your KPI journey, you can sit down and create a manual or that shows KPIs for each one of the departments, what the measurement is, and then the overall impact of that measurement on the municipality and also the local taxpayer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions from council? Okay, the motion before us then is that the presentation on Thames Center Key Performance Indicators, KPIs, as presented by Blaine Lucas of 308 Consulting be received for information. A mover and a seconder. Councillor Heeman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Smyberg. All in favor? That passes. Then I'm asking for council consensus to move to item 11.1 to consider report municipal performance measurements and indicators. Consensus? Yes, okay. And before Mr. Barrett presents, thanks very much, Mr. Lucas, for your presentation here tonight. Thank you for your work.
Great, thank you, Mayor and members of council. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. So we will move on then to 11.1 and ask Mr. Barrett to take over.
That's great. Thank you, Mayor. So further to the presentation just received, the attached report is the 50-page report from Mr. Lucas, as well as a cover report from myself, recommending that council approve the ongoing development, tracking, and publication of municipal performance measures and key KPIs. As noted, this is a continuation of the municipal service inventory work that's been done, as well as council's strategic plan. This particular item, KPI development, does check off one of your goals within your strategic plan as well. And flowing from this, as well as the public reporting via the dashboard, et cetera, as well. So this is just as I think might have been Councillor Heeman referenced, just another step towards that greater service delivery and customer service through council's ability to make more informed decisions as well. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from council at this point? Deputy Mayor Smyberg.
I was just curious in terms of the cost. I know that you indicated that it's included within the 2024 budget, but just can you let us know what the cost was for that project?
Yes, thank you. Through the mayor, this item was discussed prior to the 2024 budget being approved, and so it was added in. I think 30,000 was budgeted for this project, and the project has come in at 24,000.
Any other questions? No? All right, then, a mover and a seconder that report number CA, oops, sorry. I'm sorry, Tom, I didn't see your hand.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to acknowledge again all the work that's gone into this, but not just the physical work, but the strategy that's been at play here. Again, we did our strategic plan. Part of that was a process appraisal. So we identified all these. We have the customer service charter, and we have our organizational core values, and all these feed into these KPIs. So I think it's a really good to sit back and acknowledge the this is kind of the product of the master plan that we all work towards. So again, thanks to staff, but also thanks to council for having the vision to bring us to today.
Thank you for those comments, Councillor Heeman. That's great. Anything else then before we move on to the motion before us? Okay, so the report number CAO-008-24 be received for information, and that council approve the ongoing development, tracking, and publication of Thames Center municipal performance measures and key performance indicators, otherwise known as KPIs. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Heeman and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, we're moving on to the adoption of the last meeting. That the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on October 7th, 2024 be approved as circulated. A mover and seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Lockie and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smyberg. All in favor? Okay, motion carried. Item number 10, the consent agenda. Items listed under the consent agenda are received for information in one motion. Council members may request that one or more items be separated for further action. a mover and a seconder for items 10.1 through 10.9. Deputy Mayor Smiber and seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? I recognize. All right, thank you. That motion carries. All right, we'll move on to reports of departments. Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund, grant application, Director McDonald.
Good afternoon, through you, Your Worship. You have before you report number CS 013-24. It's requesting Council's endorsement for an application to the Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund. That's a provincial fund that would be a great match, hopefully, for our one project that we have planned for the coming years ahead anyways, that being the replacement of the rink floor on the original North Canusa ice pad at the Flight Exec Center. It has now reached its estimated useful life of 50 years. It was put in 1974. And the as outlined in the document, we can get up to 50% funding up to a maximum of $1 million. And this project is estimated to come in at about $2.3 million. So this could be a substantial aid and relief to the cost for Thames Center. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, Council, any questions on this matter? Councillor Crockett?
Absolutely. I think that this is great, and if we can get some funding towards it, that'd be fantastic. I think my only question is that, do we perceive any impacts on the newly renovated portion of the rink during this process, or do we think that we can maintain everything within the bubble of Canusa rink pad?
Sorry, do you mean impact on the newer ice pad or on the
Either
flight
or, since it kind of sits in the middle of everything.
No, we're not predicting any impact on that. We're hoping that everything can mostly come in and out of the back doors so that there should be no impact on the balance of the facility.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Heeman, did I see you with a question?
Yes, through Your Worship, just be clear on the scope of what is the scope of the project? Is it just the ice pad and the coolers, or is it larger parts of the arena that would be affected?
Okay, through the mayor, the scope would be the replacement of the concrete pad and all of the brine lines that run underneath of it, as well as replacement of the boards and glass. So the one added benefit there is the current glass in that arena is to the specifications of when they were installed, which was about 25 years ago. So that would mean that the glass now on the north pad would be higher, which just also enhances safety. And those boards are, besides the main concern is the concrete floor. If something goes wrong under that floor, the impact on it never goes wrong when it's not in use. So in the off season, we're never going to have a leak or a problem. A leak is always going to occur when the system is in use. And should a leak occur, which is bound to happen sooner or later once a ice pad gets to this age, some have issues earlier than 50 years if not put together properly. So we're kind of starting to be on borrowed time. So should there be a leak anywhere underneath the pad, there is, if it's a minor leak, they can put a chemical into the brine lines that will go to where the leak is and seal it. However, that also then has longer term impact whenever we do then replace that system. That chemical affects more of the refrigeration system. So we would then ultimately have to replace more than if we do it proactively. The other scenario is if it's a more major break in the line or different lines, because there's a bunch of lines running up and down the ice. So if there's a large break or leak or multiple small breaks, then that can result in having to lose up to 2 to 4 weeks of ice time while they have to take the ice out, remove sections of the concrete pad, get down below where the leaks are, fix them, and then put in new concrete, put in new ice. It could result in losing the rest of the season at that point. So the scope is, I've kind of gone off on a tangent, no? The scope is the concrete pad, all the lines that run under it, and the boards and glass that sit on top of it.
Does that finish your question still?
Through your worship, just to follow up, with a new chilling system, or is it that, would it be the same coolant used, or is there an opportunity for energy efficiency with the new chilling technology?
So this isn't replacing the chiller. So the chiller is kind of, yeah, sorry, I didn't say, I shouldn't have talked so quickly. So briefly, the refrigeration system, the refrigeration room, none of that equipment has changed. So it's just the lines that feed underneath the rink. So it's only impacting replacing the brine and not the cooling agent.
Any other questions from council? Councillor Lockie.
Through your worship, this is more directed to council. So, I think this is great that we're doing this. The grant is excellent, but, I do want to call out that, if we get this grant, the next step is naturally to go ahead with the project. And, it was mentioned that it would come from our reserves, but there's nothing in the reserves. Like, our reserves are really, really negative. And I'm really leery of putting our reserves further into a negative position. So I think we just have to recognize that, it's very likely that we'll probably have to, put in a capital surcharge on the tax base for the next couple of years.
Thanks, Councillor Crockett. Anything else from council? Okay, might be somewhat hypothetical, but let's say you apply for the grant, but you're not successful. What's plan B?
Through you, I would propose, and the CAO might have more to add to it, but there's a couple of options. Like, the way I envision this happening is that should council choose, then when we're going through the 2025 capital budget process, that council would at that point formally consider including that in the 2025 budget. And that could be contingent on receiving the funding, because we will likely not hear if we're successful until after the budget is finalized. So that would mean that if council decides, endorses this tonight and we apply and we include it in the budget tentatively, then if that all gets approved and then we find out in January, February, or March that we're not successful, then there's one of two options. I think the most logical one would be that then we don't do the project next year and wait and hope there's other funding that comes along and consider it for 2026. And likewise, just hope that if there are any issues, and there's not definitely going to be any issues with the ice, but if there are, we'll hope they're quick, easy fixes and not more major ones, and try again for 2026. That's kind of the range of options we have. I don't know if you want to add to that, David?
Thank you. Through the mayor. So we're still reviewing internally the draft budget for council to review in November and December. But at this stage, I don't believe the intention would be to bring this as part of the proposed 2025 capital budget, but rather if and when the municipality is successful in receiving 50% or 50 cent dollars, we would bring a report back at that time and perhaps do a budget amendment at that time, be it next September, whatever the case is. So far, but we still have some work to do on that side. Thank you.
Thanks, I understand that. Any other questions from council? Nope, not seeing any. So at this point then, we have a recommended motion before us that report number CS-013-24 be received for information, and that council endorse proceeding with applying for the Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund grant for the replacement of the North Ice Pad. A mover and a seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Smyber and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? All right, none opposed, so that motion carries. Thanks, Dave. Sorry, Steve, I should have asked you, when is the grant application open?
Through you, the mayor, it is due October 29th, and they don't really specify how soon they'll get back to us.
Okay.
So it closes October 29th.
All right. Thanks. I blew it, turned it off. All right, let's start again. Item number 12, reports of committees. Items listed under reports of committees are approved by council in one motion. Council members may request that one or more items be separated for further action. So the motion is that reports of committees, agenda items 12.1 and 12.2 be approved as presented. I'll move around to seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Lockie and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? Thank you. That motion carries. So we're moving on to item number 13. I don't believe there's any unfinished business. Number 14, notice of motion. Would you like to speak to your motion, Councillor Lockie?
Thank you, Your Worship. This is directed to council. So the main reason why I brought this forward is because in my professional experience in finance, it's generally advisable to, change auditors every 5 years or so. It's good to get a different perspective and it's healthy for the business. So just want to call it that. So Scrimger has been, I believe she was appointed in 2013. So this would be, I believe, her 4th term as auditor. And when it was appointed in June of 2023 for the 2023-2027. It was presented to council as a bylaw versus, a presentation or an opportunity for discussion. And so given, the timing of the recent completion of the audit, that's why I figured, now would be a good time to, reconsider that. And that's why I brought this motion forward.
Thanks, Councillor Lockie. I guess at this point that council has to vote on the reconsideration. So do I have a seconder for Councillor Lockie's motion? Councillor Heeman? Okay, all in favor? Oh, we're going to have a discussion. Yeah. But we need to. Okay, then that's fine. Then I can eliminate this part. Yes. Okay, so any discussion on this? Councillor Crockett.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to Councillor Lockie for bringing this forward. Very timely, as we've been having a very similar discussion in my original workplace as well, where I do believe turnover is good. There's been a lot of change at Thames Centre, which I will preface by saying is a good thing in this case. I think that there's new people here, new opportunities, both on council and on staff. And I do think that this is timely in the proposal, considering we just heard the audit, and I don't yet believe 2024 has started. But I'm not sure what the turnaround would be in preparation for that, since we did solicit the timeline to be 4 years. So I'm just hesitant on that front on how long it would take for someone to get up to speed on the financials in order to be prepared for the audit next year for us. So very pro in considering alternatives, but also weary on what a time frame and what the capacity would be in order to get an audit through for 2024 in a timely manner.
Thanks, Councillor Crockett. Anyone want to comment on that? Deputy Mayor Smyberg.
I'm going to comment on the notice of motion. So I believe that that we made the right decision back in 2023. And I think, in all fairness, our auditor has been appointed for a certain amount of time. The auditor has probably resourced accordingly, given the fact that that we approved that for that many years. And as Councillor Crockett had mentioned, we have seen some changes to the finance department. Again, that's good. We always want to see some changes there. So while there can be some, learning curves within the department in terms of new people coming in, I think it would be nice to see some consistency on the auditor. front, just in case there's, any kind of questions, that sort of thing. I'm a firm believer and absolutely we need to take a look at RFPing for our services. And I'm happy to do so at the end of the 5-year term. So I will not be supporting it.
Any other comments then? Okay, Councillor Heeman?
Um, through your worship, I'd just like to echo Councillor Crockett's comments that I think that a lot of businesses are going through and reviewing suppliers at this time because of economic conditions, and if we are looking for savings, and I think there's a motivation beyond savings in this instance, being like a healthy rotation of service providers for impartiality for in the case of the auditor. I think that was Councillor Lockie's comment about the practice of rotating auditors um, in the private sector. But yeah, I think that I would be in support of this, and I think we should also look at reviewing some of our other contracts as well for savings.
Thank you. Okay, we'll call the vote for the offer to reconsider, or to the motion to reconsider. In favor? In favor? Okay, we have 2 and 1 opposed, right? So passes. All right then, thank you. Can we move? Sorry, I just wanted to make sure we did this right. All right, then. So we have a motion that council directs staff to complete a request for proposals RFP for audit services for the municipality for the years 2024 through 2028 and report back. That is moved by Councillor Lockie. And do we have a seconder? Councillor Heeman? Okay. So all in favor? Any opposed? The motion carries. All right. Thank you, council. All right, we'll move on to new business. There's nothing that's been presented. And then bylaws, item number 16, that bylaws 73-2024 through 76-2024 be adopted as presented. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Lockie. All in favor? That motion carries. Thank you. All right. Item number 16, I'm sorry. Yep. Meeting schedule then for is Monday, the next meeting is Monday, November the 4th, here in the council chambers at 5. And by Monday, November the 18th, again at 5. Then a mover and seconder for an adjournment. Deputy Mayor Smybert and Councillor Heeman. All in favor? Thank you. The meeting